Welcome, everybody, to the Careers in Nursing online info session. Tonight, we're here to talk about all our postgraduate study options here at UniSC in our field of nursing. We're going to talk about the range of programs we have available to you. How do you make it all fit in with a very busy schedule, work, life, family commitments, as well as we're going to have a really great panel discussion later on with some really special guests who can give some insight around the professional field once you have those postgraduate qualifications, as well as how do you make it all fit in while balancing study and work, of course. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. You'll see a Q&A button at the top or bottom of the screen, depending on what device you're on. Now, you can use this to ask questions all throughout the evening. You'll notice that you don't have a video or mic function tonight, and this will be the best way to ask questions. So do not use the chat tab, use the Q&A tab. We do have our colleague Jordan here to help answer those questions, but also Professor Nick Ralph, who is right next to me, as well as Jody Orchard as well, who comes from a wealth of experience when it comes to our nursing programs, but also what the industry actually looks like in terms of once having these skills. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognize their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So before diving into our programs, a little bit about UniSC. Now, UniSC is a multi-campus university across the East Coast. And we start all the way up at Fraser Coast in Harvey Bay. Then we have Gympie, Sunshine Coast, Caboolture, and Moreton Bay. Now, when it comes to our postgraduate nursing, we have primarily focused based in our Sunshine Coast area, as well as online. Great thing about having that flexibility between on campus or online, or going completely online, depending on where you would like to study from or work from, there's a lot of options and flexibility available to you. Now, even if you are completely online, please don't forget that here at UniSC, you can use any of our campuses as a study hub. If you are someone like myself who prefer to separate their home life and study life, especially when you are getting through some of those assessments, I found that as a really great opportunity, especially on a weekend or a day that suits you. But here at UniSC, we also have a range of support services outside and, of course, within your studies. We have an amazing academic and study support system. We have a careers and employment team, a health and wellbeing team that covers a range of different services, financial support and scholarships. And please don't forget, there is actually a range of scholarships available to you as well, even if you are studying postgraduate, you're a current student, or a new student. We have student groups and partnering opportunities. We have an amazing counseling team, disability and equity support, and a student success team that checks in along your journey. Now, all you have to do is go to unisc.edu.au/support and check out all those services. You never know that all the services, although you might not need them now, you might need them along the journey as well. I think this is a really great opportunity to invite Professor Nick Ralph. Nick, if you could let us know a little bit about your work experience, but also give us an understanding about your background and what you've been up to and what brings you here to UniSC. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Cody. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for taking time out, probably over dinner and in a busy evening after a long shift, to hear about postgraduate nursing studies. Really appreciative of the investment that you've made, and making an investment in your postgraduate future is one of the best steps that you'll ever take. It certainly was for me. My name is Professor Nick Ralph. I prefer to be known as Nick. I'm a registered nurse, a researcher, an educator, and quite commercial as well. Over my career, I've attracted more than $8 million in research funding, published over 100 peer-reviewed papers, spent years teaching, mentoring, leading nurses at every level of the profession, and was very fortunate to have been recognised as Australian Nurse of the Year quite a while ago. I've actually extended my research into the commercial space, where I've invented medical devices that are now supplied direct to NATO, and about to launch here in operating theatres across the country. So I sit at the intersection of clinical practice, research, innovation, and all of that has been possible because of the decision I made quite some time ago to study postgraduate nursing. So I'm here to talk about this. I'm here to talk about us as a university. Cody, are you happy for me to launch into the next little bit about health as the #1 public university. Yep. So just with respect to the previous slide, I wanted to give you some context on UniSC as a place to study, both for health and nursing. We have an incredibly strong health and nursing postgraduate program. There is a reason why the Good Universities Guide, which is a very widely referenced independent assessment of university quality in Australia, ranks UniSC as the #1 public university in Australia for postgraduate teaching quality and health services and support. #1 out of every public university in the country. And I think it's because that we really focus on the personal touch, that we really have a great relationship with postgraduate students. I know my postgraduate cohort as a postgraduate coordinator by name, every single one of them. And I think that speaks to something that's central to our philosophy in the health faculty, the belief that teaching quality is not just about academic credentials and what we've accomplished, but how we actually lean in and prepare graduates for real-world clinical practice. Across our postgraduate program, we focus very much not just on academics, but on what I like to call pracademics. Our nursing academics are people who've worked in the wards, in aged care, in leadership roles. They've done the hard yards and made great success in their career, and now they're sitting in a teaching space. So they really bring that practical knowledge into every unit that they teach, and they can translate that to you. Our programs are developed in genuine partnership, and I should mention this as a key feature, with healthcare employers and industry bodies, which means that we've got a really great selection of courses within our programs. They stay current, they stay relevant to what's happening in the sector, and that means that when you come out of UniSC postgraduate nursing program, you don't just have a credential, you come out with better clinical capability, a stronger professional identity, and a really clear sense on how to lead and innovate in the healthcare environments that you're already working in. So if you're going to invest your time and energy into a postgraduate qualification, that teaching quality that we're really proud of matters enormously. And I think that the evidence shows that UniSC is the best in the country at this. For the Graduate Certificate of Nursing that's on your screen, let's move into these programs themselves and just walk through. The first one that I wanted to cover is this one. This is a program that is the entry point for nurses who are thinking about postgraduate study for the first time. So this is a 6-month full-time equivalent qualification, and it's designed to do two main things. Firstly, it deepens your clinical knowledge in a specific area of health, research, or practice. So rather than being a generic qualification, it helps you develop genuine expertise in an area that's relevant to your roles and your interests. You can tailor it to your interests, for instance. And second, it starts positioning you for clinical leadership and advanced practice roles, which is often where we find that our graduates are wanting to go after a few years in the field. One thing that makes this program particularly attractive is the elective pathway. So if your circumstances allow, you can structure your study so that you can complete the full graduate certificate in a single trimester. Some students do, just 3 months, which is a remarkably fast route to postgraduate credentials for nurses who want to move quickly. For those who want to prefer a more gradual pace, the standard pathway spreads the courseway over 2 trimesters across a 6-month period, roughly, of that study. So the program commences in both trimester 1 and trimester 2. There's 2 intake points per year, giving you the flexibility about when to start, and it's available online and asynchronously delivered, which means you can flexibly choose how you actually engage with the program. The entry requirements are you'll need an AQF level bachelor. However, and this is important, if you are a registered nurse with ARPA registration but don't have a bachelor level of qualification, there are still some circumstances where you can be considered for entry based on extensive industry experience, subject to my approval. So don't rule yourself out before you've had a conversation with us. And we also mentioned that all of our eligible domestic applicants receive a Commonwealth supported place at this particular point in time. So that reduces your course fees by 80%. And we're very fortunate as a regional university to be in the position to offer this. So it's not a competitive scholarship. It's guaranteed for every eligible student while those places last. So that changes the financial equation significantly. And in this economic climate, it's not often that I can look back on when I started my postgraduate journey many years ago and can say it was actually more expensive back then than it is now, even with all things considered. Cody, let's move into the gerontology next. So of all the research that is done at scale at UniSC, gerontology and healthy aging is our strongest suite. We have world leaders in the gerontology space, and with Australia as an aging country that is fast facing a crisis in that space, we think that that's a really ideal position in the current landscape of Australian healthcare. My colleagues in this space remind me that much of healthcare is focused on gerontology, as often we're caring for older people as health declines in the advancing years. So we're in the middle of this profound demographic shift in the country. Australia's population is aging rapidly. There's a huge demand for high quality aged care and gerontologically sensitive aged care, and it's increasing at a pace that the sector is really struggling to keep up with, both in terms of workforce numbers and in terms of the expertise of that workforce. And obviously with the Royal Commission that some of you may be familiar with, it's very clear that we need more nurses with specialist skills in gerontological care, and we need them urgently. So this program exists to address that gap. Over 6 months, you'll build a deep evidence-based understanding of gerontology, the study of aging, and the care of older people. You'll engage with policy frameworks that guide best practice in aged care in Australia. You'll develop critical analysis skills to evaluate existing models of care and identify where you can make improvements in quality and safety. And you'll build your communication skills, your collaboration skills, your cultural capability to work effectively with older people, their families, and across MDTs or multidisciplinary teams. So a key advantage there in that program is that it is delivered fully online. That makes it highly accessible for any nurse across the country who's already working in the gerontology or aged care space. And like the Graduate Certificate of Nursing, it commences in trimester 1 and 2, runs for 6 months full time, and requires the same sort of bachelor level qualifications with a Commonwealth supported place as well. So if you're working in aged care right now, we think that this program is unique in the country. We've actually got new courses coming into the program as of next year that further advance that with some models of care subjects specifying on the 4Ms of aging, which has come out of Harvard University. So we're really at the cutting edge of this space, and we think it's a perfect platform in which you can do your graduate certificate in gerontology and move into the master. Next one, thanks, Cody. So speaking of the Master of Nursing Leadership, this is our flagship program, the Master of Nursing in Clinical Leadership. So this is really for nurses who are ready to make a serious investment in their professional development. And we understand that there's lots of programs here to consider, but really starting off as a platform in the graduate certificate space and then moving into the master is a great option for everybody. So the master is about helping people become those who shape clinical practice, lead teams, determine quality improvement processes, and design clinical services, and contribute to the research base that drives a profession forwards. So it's an 18-month full-time program delivered entirely online. If you complete the graduate certificate first, that counts towards your master. So you can transition into the master with a credit already banked. And in this program, you develop advanced capabilities in clinical leadership. So it means that you're not just leading a team day to day, but understanding organizational policy and the big system level drivers of clinical environments, knowing how to navigate them and influence them. We find that the students that come out of that program, and we've actually just had today, we've signed off on quite a number of students who've started that program 18 months ago and have just finished, and it was lovely talking to the students who are really excited about them finishing their programs today. Getting their marks back, realizing that they've done well, and progressing. These students feel as though they leave or graduate, I should say, with sophisticated skills in project design and management, whether that's designing and executing a research project or building out and developing and leading a quality improvement initiative within the ward that you work with their support. So you'll engage with that CPD in a structured way throughout the program, where you're working with your ward, identifying things, talking to us, and having that conversation that really elevates and sophisticates your thinking about how to improve practice. So this is a program for the kind of nurse that is someone who comes back to their workplace at the completion of the program. I haven't left throughout it usually, but not just with new knowledge, but with a new professional identity and a genuine capacity to drive change. So we hear consistently from graduates that the master is transformative, not just what they know, but how they think about their role in the healthcare system. And again, we have that AQF level 7 Bachelor of Nursing requirement for entry, and eligible domestic applicants receive that guaranteed Commonwealth supported place, reducing their fees significantly. So if you're thinking about your career, I think this is the program. And Cody will mention that I'm taking short consults with interested students, talking through regards to their options here. So next slide, please, Cody. So some of you may have heard of the Gerontological Nursing Competencies, or the GNCs. This is a different program that sits genuinely differently from our formal academic qualifications. But it's a competency-based short course program, a professional development program that actually is part of UniSC's gerontology suite of programs, specifically designed for RNs who are working with older people and want to build their specialist skills in gerontological nursing, but without necessarily committing to a full-time postgraduate degree right now. So the program runs as two sequential courses. The first is called the GNC Essentials. The second is GNC Leadership. And each course is delivered entirely online with a series of virtual workshops and interactive learning activities built throughout. You're guided through 5 structured steps to completion with facilitation and mentorship from experienced gerontological nurses along the way. And it's part-time study, so it sits alongside your current work. Everybody doing it is working full-time or near full-time, without requiring you to step back from the workplace. So this is designed around your current commitments. When you complete the course, you receive a formal certificate of completion. And importantly, that completion can be used as equivalence to a postgraduate subject, meaning it can be used as credit towards a formal postgraduate qualification down the track. So here's a part that I really want to make sure that everybody wants to hear, or gets to hear. Eligible registered nurses can access the GNCs completely free. The course is valued at $2,500. It's fully funded under a tender that we won with the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing. There are conditions that apply, but you can check with us or on the website. For many registered nurses working in aged care, this will be fully accessible at no cost. So there's multiple intake dates across the second half of 2026 from July through to October. There are several opportunities to get started soon, so please inquire. And if you're an aged care provider here tonight looking to upskill your nursing workforce, please talk to us. This is something we can talk to you about in terms of a more coordinated approach. Cody, next. So that's over to you, Cody.
Thanks, Nick. And that was really a really great insight to understand our postgraduate programs and how you can build up your skills from a grad cert level going straight into the masters. And I'm sure we would like to start talking about in the panel discussion about the differences between them and can you upskill along the way, but we'll jump into that very soon. So, but if you are very interested in any of these programs above, traditionally at most universities, you have to apply through QTAC, but for all our postgraduate programs, it's a fee-free application straight on our usc.edu.au website. So if you just go onto our website, go to your program page and the program that you are most interested in, and you would like to put in a formal application, just follow those prompts. And if you have any concerns or need further support, reach out to our Student Central team and we'll be able to help you get through those processes to be able to apply. You'll be most likely dealing directly with Nick once you have a formal application in and make an assessment from there. But Nick will be making a call out to anyone who's registered and attended this webinar to be able to provide further context and advice and really kind of talk about your circumstance and what you're trying to achieve and maybe lining a program that suits you best to your goals. I think it's a really great time to have a chat and really understand, I guess, what our audience is really wanting to learn tonight. So, if you guys have any dying questions for Professor Nick Ralph, but also we do have Jody Orchard as well, who's jumping on screen to join us now, who is a practitioner in nursing as well, works very closely with UniSC. But just quickly for our audience, if you do have any questions you'd like to start chucking in, we'll be able to answer them live. So just use that Q&A tab at the top or bottom of your screen. But first and foremost, Jody, we've had the chance to meet Nick and understand more about his work history and what brought him to UniSC. We would like to know the same for you. What is your connection to UniSC, but also what does your work history look like to bring you where you are today?
Yeah, thank you, Cody. So I am a a nurse practitioner, and I'm currently working as a director of nursing out in the Central West. I've been nursing for 30 years, and I started at the time when we didn't have a choice. We went into the uni, not the hospital. It was the first year. So my whole life of education and learning nursing has really been about doing courses and consolidating all my clinical with some theory. So I think it's very important. Um, I work a little bit in private practice as well, and have a lot of public service roles. And interestingly, with the gerontology post graduate certificate, my first nurse practitioner mentor was a gerontology nurse practitioner because all our patients have all those aging, I guess, conditions that we need to understand when we look after them. My connection with UniSC is that since November last year, I've been employed in a project role which looks at reviewing literature, articles, and models of care. And it's just great to be. I'd like to think I'm a serial educator, serial learner. So I myself, I have 3 grad certs, 1 master's, and then multiple short courses that help kind of support my clinical practice. Um, is that kind of and I think the biggest thing for me is about when you study, you choose something that you're interested in and something that you're doing currently with work, because then you can work alongside it. And then that makes it easier, it makes it relevant, and the people you are looking after get the best benefit of that education that you're acquiring.
Completely agree. And I think that speaks to like health professionals in general, like that willing to care, willing to learn, willing to really develop your knowledge because it is always developing and changing, and upskilling is really important for you to be able to provide that best patient care. I think that's having that natural instinct within you and that eagerness to learn and be able to provide that high level of consciousness and service is, I think, a really important skill and a really great attribute as an educator as well as a health professional. So that's really great to hear. And I think a really a great understanding is like where to go from here is that, we have many people here tonight who's going like, okay, I'm looking at the masters, I might be looking at the grad cert, but how do I get it done? I think Nick, you were talking before about, you can smash it out in one semester, which is pretty impressive. Like, although it'd be a very, very busy period, what does that look like? How do I guess students get it done while working at that full-time level? Is it better to kind of go down that part-time? If you do take it on full-time, what do you think that sort of contact hours and commitment looks like?
Yeah, thanks, Cody. Look, I'm probably the worst person to be asking that, which some of you may wonder why I've said that as program coordinator, but I'm kind of a, let's rip in and get stuck in kind of guy. And so when I did my master, I initially did the grad cert in an entire semester, got that out of the way, and that was largely because of a pay rise that was associated with Queensland Health at the time and still is at 3.5%. And I did a transition program, which accounted for 2 credits. And we do consider students who do at Queensland Health or other such equivalent transition programs for credit towards graduate certificates. So we should have mentioned that. But for me, I think as I've gotten more experienced and older, I realise that it's there's a lot of considerations that need to be made around what's right for you. Some people have high job demands, some people have high family demands, some people have both, and some people have the time and the motivation to get stuck in and knock it out in a semester. I think the important thing to take home is that we've designed the program to meet everybody's need, and we support people through the program, helping them get to where they need to be as quickly or as slowly as they wish to. The biggest thing I think as part of it, which we really focus on, is the importance of a good, healthy professional relationship with our students. And, we like to be accessible and, provide plenty of consultation. And oftentimes, students who are busy will just pick up the phone and call us rather than, post forum posts and things like that. They say that they really like it. So we try and flexibly contact students or allow students to flexibly contact us just so that we can help coach them through the program and understand where they're coming from.
You were talking about opportunities of credit, and that work experience playing a role. can someone start off in the grad cert in nursing and then use that to receive credit into the masters of nursing? Is that something
Yeah,
that does work in that space, or is there a range of different grad certs that you can do and they can contribute to that masters?
yeah, 100%. So we all of our grad certs feed into our master program. So um, effectively, if you finish the grad cert, you will receive credit as you articulate into Master of Nursing Clinical Leadership.
And that's a really good point. I know, like, even in I come from the business background, grad cert in business, moving to maybe the masters of business. My wife is a physiotherapist and now a women's health, pelvic floor physio, and is in the health space. And together we work really well together, especially in that clinical environment on how to operate and manage a clinic. And when we come together with those, I guess, high level skills, it works really powerful. But just trying to understand the benefits of, is it better to jump in and do that grad cert, get that, that piece of paper to use in your work environment, um, and then move on to that master's? Obviously, it comes down to, I guess, your wants and needs and what you're trying to succeed out of it. It sounds like the master's is quite empowering in terms of how you come back to your workplace and the value you can add. But Jody, I would like to start off with you with a question I'm about to ask, which is, how can students apply of what they've learned? Obviously, yes, you get that piece of paper, but how can they apply of what they learn in their workplace and in their employment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I also like to say that careers can change. So in my 30 years, I've done a majority of clinical, but education, leadership, management, and service development. So things change. So you're growing as you do things. The biggest thing for me is I've always tried to do the courses that relate to my clinical work. So I take away the theoretical knowledge, the understanding, the pathophysiology about how things work. And then at the bedside, you can be going, oh, if I do this, this is how I can change it. So it's about combining that theory into practice. Yes, is that a way to answer that for you?
Yeah, for sure. And Nick, if you just wanted to add on to that around the grad cert and the masters and using those building block models, is there any like real benefits of jumping in and doing the grad cert? Is there some instant wins that you can get in your workplace settings that you know of in what you've seen across your graduates?
So for successful graduates of a graduate certificate, most Queensland Health and most large private hospital chains offer a 3.5% increase for successful graduate certificate holders to their pay, which is not insignificant when you think about, the course only costs you a couple of $1,000, and your instant uptick for a lot of nurses, who earn a variety of incomes. There is an instant uptick to that, which they'll realise benefits of and be in a better financial position pretty rapidly. Usually within a year or so. And then going on to do a master, there's a 5.5% pay rise with Queensland Health for a relevant master in the field that you're working in. So there are fairly significant financial benefits to doing a Master of Nursing. I think the biggest thing that, in my experience, and many of my successful students have completed, is that they get to a point where they realise that it's not just that instant quick win of the wage rise and the recognition within the workplace. It's the door to other opportunities that open up. And that's where I've seen my career, explode in a direction that I never thought was possible. And it would be my encouragement to everybody wondering if you can, whether you can, should you, can you. The answer is yes, because we support students through this process. You're already functioning as a successful registered nurse, and you can tailor that program to whatever schedule that you need. So for those who are perhaps a little bit more cautious, I'd be speaking especially to you tonight. It's a great decision to make, and I'd really encourage you to make that big step, and you'll be glad you did.
Yeah, I think Jody can really attest to that. With someone who calls herself a serial educator. Through these learning experience, grad certs or masters or diversity of programs, you never know where it's going to take your career, but the skills you adapt and learn and how it provides value in your workplace setting, but also your own values as well as someone who's proud of the work that they achieve every single day. And I think that's really important, obviously, from a clinical workplace point of view, but sounds like as educators as well, providing that knowledge onto, I guess, the next set of clinical professionals. And I think it's really important to understand that, there is a diversity amount of skills that you can get out of the grad certificate in nursing and gerontology as well, which is obviously more of a specialization, but also the masters. And there was a question, and Nick, although you jumped in and answered it, I think it's something that people do want to know. Is like, can I do a specialty in my grad cert in nursing, or if my goal is to do work in an acute space, can I apply that to my grad cert in nursing or my masters in nursing, or is it more generalist? But can you talk about the diversity of how you can use these programs?
So we our flagship master program is generic in the sense that it can be customized to undertake whatever the flavor or clinical specialty is that's yours. So, for instance, today in the students that finished off with their special nursing project course, that is the last course, we were looking at projects that ranged from anywhere between school nursing through to sexual health nursing, through to oncology nursing, right through to aeromedical retrieval nursing. And these people were redesigning clinical initiatives all as part of their specialty. So it really is designed, given that we create a generic structure, for you to come to us with projects, with ideas, with an idea of what you're wanting to get out of it, and we help you structure your curriculum by virtue of the work that you're actually doing as part of your assessments and as part of your your work with interfacing with your work and bringing that into the higher education space, talking to us about how you could approach different models of care and various quality improvement initiatives and so on.
Yeah, so you have the chance to really personalize your experience in a way that will benefit you in your own personal goals, not what the curriculum is traditionally might be set out for. And that sounds really cool. Obviously, it sounds really important to work with your academic, communicate, and talk about your goals and ideals from just getting started in that grad cert level all the way through to that master's. And it sounds like something that we can really achieve as a team together between the academic and the student. It kind of motivates me to go down this space a little bit. Um, Look, there's a really great question, and I love an AI question because
Mm.
it's impacting every single workspace and in all different ways. I know just in the clinical practice in physiotherapy, using AI notes has been a really helpful tool in enhancing those clinical notes sort of spaces and letting those, I guess, like those physios and exercise physiologists be able to be more hands-on and allocate time where it's really important. Jody, you're a nursing practitioner. You're in this kind of space every day. Now, although the questions come in about how has AI affected the actual learning and what you can and can't do, which I'd love to jump onto that with Nick very soon, how has it affected the workplace? What have you seen so far in that sort of practical side?
Um, so I actually am starting to embrace it. I like I look at the fact that I'm an older style nurse and it's been, learning it, but it does change your practice. I've used it a lot for my private patients looking at with my documentation. It does allow you to be more engaged because you're not typing, you're not writing, you're actually with the person and being able to, um, they feel heard, they feel like they're part of it. So I think it puts you back to the bedside. I think we've got a lot to see in the future coming forward about how it can impact our practices just in the day-to-day world on the floor and writing our notes. But yeah, it's taken me a while, but I'm starting to enjoy it, and it seems to, as you start to model it, it really makes your notes look great. So,
Yeah, so it's designed to enhance your workplace environment, spending
mm,
time on things that actually provide value to you and the patient, versus maybe taking certain skills away, which I think when it comes to clinical notes, it's probably sometimes although it might be one of a really important task, it sometimes feels like maybe one of the minimal priorities in that very moment when you are in that bedside manner.
yeah, I think making sure that you understand how you're writing is really important because that is what protects you. It's what looks after you and it looks after your patients. So I think it's very is still a skill you need to learn, but it's something that can be enhanced by the AI, um, opportunities that are there now.
Yeah, and Nick, over to the program remit here at Uni SC, the question really was focused on um, do upcoming students get a breakdown education session on what can and can't be used with AI tools in postgrad study? Can you kind of relate? I'm sure you're already starting to see this in your environment for pros and cons, I'm sure, and how to navigate and manage this across, I guess, your academic cohort.
I have a very pragmatic view of AI. If you're not using it, you're going to miss out. Um, it's not the fact of whether you're using it or not that is the real question that I'm asking. It's how you're using it. And probably the best analogy that I can give is many of us, when we we're going through high school, would do, um, you know, um, maths in some sort of long form, an advanced maths, and you know, the teacher was just as interested in how you got to the answer as much as in what the answer was that you put on the page. And that's my general philosophy as a program coordinator with this program, is that if I see a body of work presented to me that looks like someone has said to ChatGPT, you know, do me an assignment that looks like this, then I'll probably be pretty annoyed. But if somebody uses AI to really enhance the scope and extent of their thinking around a subject and gives me something that is rich and replete with a deeply considered viewpoint, then I'm really happy to see that. And I would encourage every student to, to talk to us as a teaching team about what the expectations are, and how you can actually use that to become a better practitioner, because it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And for me, the big question is not whether we use it in health, it's how, and how to make sure that there's professional boundaries and constraints around what we do in practice with AI as registered nurses.
Yeah, I just know in the marketing communication space, what we see every day is nothing like a chat GPT, 100 adjectives put into a sentence that you can tell this it's been completely AI written, where it's not actually providing value, it's just using a lot of describing words. And I completely hear you, Nick. It's like, you know what? It is a really great tool to provide richness and value if you use it properly, and how you can use it in your professional environment, but also obviously in your academic studies as well. And it's not to take away from the core knowledge and the skills that you obtain, it's to add further value and depth into what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's a really great way of describing it. And it is true, and it's across every industry. It's use these to create better proficiencies and better value and better outcomes. And well, what Jody was talking about is communicating better, especially when you're working with diverse working in health professionals to working maybe with this one patient. Maybe these tools can be used as something that creates a common language that's clean and crisp, and you don't get lost in, I guess, someone's personal writing style versus someone else's. So there's a lot of value in that in terms of providing a high level service to that patient. I think there's a really important question here, and Nick, you might be jumping in and looking at answering it. We have Nithu here, who's a registered nurse in aged care and wants to know more about gerontology competencies versus the gerontology course. Which one would be more beneficial to enhancing their nursing career in aged care?
Both. So the short course feeds into the graduate certificate in gerontology. My advice to everybody, regardless of how experienced or how little experience you have in the space, jump into the GNCs. They're run by the wonderful Professor Victoria Trainer. She has an international research profile in this space, has published research on what the GNCs actually do for nursing competency to registered nurses. So this is a well-validated, well-researched, well-understood program. It's a short course, and when you complete that, you'll get credit towards the graduate certificate in gerontology. So it's for eligible nurses free. So you can start in that program and then get credit towards a graduate certificate in gerontology, which makes it very affordable for students.
Completely agree. And that building block model may work for you, especially when you're already working in that professional setting. It's like, hey, I'm going to do the short course. I'm going to use this in my work environment, and I'm going to roll over it and start my grad cert from that, and receive some credit for the work that I've already done. I think it's good, especially for the fee-free grant that's available. Sounds like pretty much it makes sense to me. It makes your program options a little bit more affordable as well, because I'm sure these sort of grants only come up every certain occasion. It's not something that's a part of the university furthermore. So I think we're going to move to, oh, okay. We got Elliot here, who, and Nick, I know you actually have a bit of experience in the public health sector as well. Does the masters include any sort of public health sector knowledge?
Yeah, we can tailor it to include courses from public health, and we do have some public health courses in it. But again, it really depends on what you're looking for, and that's probably a better conversation that we would have live with you after this call. So just to understand what you're looking for in regards to public health, because public health is not just one small field; it's a very big field, and there's various elements that we might be able to use to tailor as part of your master.
Yeah, that's where I started my university journey. I studied epidemiology and then did an associate degree in health promotion. Public health was a really great experience. I got really attracted to more the health promotion side versus the science core of epidemiology, and that's what kind of led me down more of being on the front face and working in our communities. And now I work in education, communicating with our communities, which is really cool. So I think I really want to start moving to our final questions of the evening. And Jody, I'm going to go over to you. For nurses who are thinking about postgraduate study or upskilling in the nursing space, especially you, who is a serial educator herself, um, if they're not ready, but really need some advice on if they should give it a go, is there any advice you could pass them for someone who has done a large range of different types of studies?
Yeah, like I said, my biggest thing is that I find something I'm interested in. I find something that, I want to do better and I want to be able to deliver better care because that's what motivates me. It allows me to, I guess, yeah, because so I know I did a forensic course because all I did nursing to do was to become a police officer. I just had to waste a year and then I wrecked my knee, so I couldn't join the police service. So I've continued my love of forensics throughout my time. And so one of the things I did was start to do that. And once you start and you enjoy it and you can apply it, it becomes easier. I think that's the biggest thing for me is that just give it a go. Just get in there and give it a go because it's only going to make you better.
Yeah, and we do have those options where you can just really go hard for one semester
Mm,
and get it done. I tell you what, we're already midway through the year, so it's pretty quick. It's this year has flown by, and I think there's opportunities to upskill and, well, even let's just say you're looking at studying in semester two or what we call trimester
mm.
two this year. That kicks off at the end of July. You'll be finished at the end of the year, and you're looking at embarking on a new journey for 2027. I think that's really powerful. Nick, do you have any advice to anyone who's considering that further study and what you could pass on in terms of your experiences and knowledge?
I think one of the things that's really difficult for those who haven't started their postgraduate journey is um, you don't know what you don't know, and until you start doing study, you'll hear people that will say it's transformative, that it changes your life, that it helps you think. And I certainly was quite skeptical and dubious about that. But when I started it, I think it's the best decision I've made. The best investment you can make is in yourself. And I think that every single RN deserves to make that investment um, because I can see it looking back on my career that it's really helped me think and grow, not only as a professional but as a person. So there's lots of benefits. I just encourage you all to jump in.
Yeah, just listening to you talk before about that masters of nursing and the impact it has on the workplace for the individual, but when they go back into that workforce setting, or they were obviously maintaining that workforce setting the whole entire time, which is most common, especially nurses. I do hear of the crazy schedules they commit to, and as well as advancing at the exact same time, and how much value they can bring in their workplace setting and how much impact they can have to directly their team, but the environment they work in, especially in some of these big workforce environments. For example, school I know has 7,000 staff, and we're a regional location here on the Sunshine Coast, and that's a huge workforce between clinical and non-clinical roles and leaders and professional staff all working together to service, I guess, our communities and our footprint. I think that's really powerful. I
And
think.
Cody, those sorry to interrupt, those
No.
short courses like the one that Nick spoke about before, they're a great introduction because they don't take up all your time. They allow you to get the taster. They allow you to step back in and start to learn again. And it is just a way, it's just about making things happen for yourself. So start small and then grow bigger, and particularly things that you can scaffold and build bigger. That's the great way to lead into your masters.
Yeah, I really do love I call it the level up model, is
Mm,
take the small win, or the scaffolding, take the scaffold approach, use that
Mm.
skill set in your environment. You've got a completion behind you. That's like a good old tick for like your own self-esteem as well when it comes to getting back into study and making it all balance, and then going, okay, how can I take on a bit more? Or actually, I've got the confidence now. I really want to go for the big ticket prize. I really want to pursue my master's because I believe I can make some serious impact with this skill set. Jody, I think that's a really great way of recognizing it. And it's not just the Uni SC short course programs. Like, be open to learning about all the available amazing short courses that we have across the healthcare system. Like, there's a lot of them that add so much value to your skill set, to being a very strong-willed nurse practitioner. I think that's everything from us tonight. We just want to say thank you for joining us. Nick and myself and Jordan are going to stick around for a little bit longer answering questions behind the scenes. But for the rest of you, we hope you have a really fantastic evening. And most importantly, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Jody, for joining us this evening, as well as Nick on providing your knowledge and your experience. We hope you all have a fantastic evening, and we look forward to seeing you on our campuses in the near future. Thank you again.